Somebody said it's 7 exactly, so let's all rise and open the meeting with the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey, welcome everybody. I'll take my seat, but it's 13 January 2020.
And for Richard Stance.
And with that being said, I think it's still early enough in January to say Happy New Year to everybody, both in the audience and out in Panda Land. I'm still wearing my tie from the holiday festivities so we can keep some of the New Year vibe going. And on our wall, I put something before we get into the meeting proper. I don't know if the camera lady can pick it up or not over there, but on the wall we have the community solar array, which to our pride was completed, and this charging power into Central Hudson's grid as of I think it was 11 a.m. December 31st, 2019, and did a grand opening ceremony this past Sunday with a pancake breakfast that went along with it, and we all got to, a few of us were there, and we conveyed that I wanted to thank the board here, and we did a lot of work to make this happen in conjunction with the town and other entities, but it is spinning the meter, and we have our municipal buildings, the town, the Village of Tivoli's, the library getting some power, and then we have 250 of our local residents who joined into the sponsored agreement, so it's happening. A little anecdotal story, I was with the fellows from Suncommon who were one of the developer entities, and they said this winter, past few clear nights, that they, even the full moon was producing some kilowatt generation with enough reflective light off a full moon.
Wow.
Nothing like the full capacity of what it can do, but it was pretty amazing. And they did say one day they were, you might remember it's 1.73 megawatt capacity, and one day they were pushing out 1.63 meg, and that's in a winter generation mode where the sun is lowest and not too direct on the panels. And Jan and I were looking, when we were there Sunday, it's pretty cool. I mean, we presume the engineers could do this, but the angle of the sun never creates a shadow on the next row of panels, even though they're in the picture, you see some shadows. It's laid out just perfectly, because right now the sun's at its lowest point in our horizon and in the winter here, and even with that low angle, it's not shading its neighboring panels. And if you look at my right, the front of the room there, you can see the shielding we built with the green is trees and shrubs we had inserted, and then the real nice wooden fences set back further. It's all showing here. I think it's a great picture, and it's a great testimony to the village and the town and other entities working to reduce carbon footprint and develop some local green energy. So it's a really great project. And thanks to the board that helped here and everybody that helped outside. Thanks a lot.
They're coming.
What's that?
They're coming.
The everywhere, you mean like the solar? Yeah.
In the town of Claverick, I have applications for 2 large-scale solars. The smallest is 20 acres. The largest is 70 acres.
That's good. But what's nice about ours is one reason it's on our well field for those folks that aren't familiar with our monthly meetings. But that was deliberate because there are developers out there that want to put it on open farmland. But here in Red Hook, we felt not going on farmland is a better option, meaning you don't want to take productive land out of the ability to produce farm products, whether it be milk or meat or grain or crops, whatever. So this was our answer to it. We feel it helps protect our well field too. So it's like the board has heard us say multiple times, we're farming the sun for energy and the ground right there for our drinking water. So it's a good mix. But anyway, on to the meeting proper. We've opened, and we do have a public hearing scheduled for tonight. It'll be somewhat abbreviated, and I'll explain why in a moment. But what we do have, I thought, let's look at the minutes first and get that part of our business out of the way. In order to do that, I need my glasses. So in December, we had 2 meetings. One was December 9th. That was the monthly board meeting. And then we had a workshop meeting on December 21. The minutes have been circulated, but I've gotten through them, and I would ask, are there any additional additions, alterations, or corrections? Hearing none, is there a motion to accept those two sets of minutes?
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Thank you. I think what we could do is, in your packets is the various sets of documents related to the matter of the public hearing tonight. And when I was introducing our agenda, I mentioned we had scheduled this at our last meeting, the December 9th meeting, and we're waiting on a few technical points to be developed out. They are now in your packets, but I don't feel we've had enough time to look it over, but I thought we'd recap a little bit. What I would consider tonight, we could do what I'll call a preliminary public hearing, and then you'll see in your packets a motion to set a public hearing in a month, which I think is February. I'll have to look at the date on the resolution, but whatever the second Monday in February is. Jen, calendar lady, is that in your brain or? Okay.
February 10th.
May 10th. But Jen also has this uncanny ability to diagnose conflicts with holidays and, or. We're good. Okay, so we'll leave that date. But anyway, what I was saying was, the packet contains things, and I wanted to review it as the board, and whoever in the audience wants to talk about it tonight is more than welcome, because it is a publicly noticed hearing. We read in the Freeman, which is our official newspaper. And, but we will have a second shot at it in a month. So, but I'll just recap a little bit. As you all know, the village board constituted out a separate zoning review committee, known to us as the ZRC, to look at the general business district, the highway business district, the NMU, and some future plans for growth and growth options within the village, in particular within the village center. And further in particular will be the general business district in the center, highway business district, which will be on the east end, and then there's two NMU sections that are out in different parts of the village. NMU is neighborhood mixed use. So they reported out some recommendations, and we're moving forward with moving that more toward codification and local law and changing our zoning, which requires public hearings and a lot of discourse. Part of it required, the first step will be the change of the zoning map, which is now in your packets. We're having some trouble bringing it from concept to CAD to PDF to circulation and so forth. So the one in your packets now should be the one we'll be working with. And then there are other things in your packets that we can work on later tonight, which really aren't subject to the public hearing. It'll be the seeker work and setting the next public hearing, but we don't have to do that in this stage of the meeting. So that being said, that was introductory. I guess I would formally open a public hearing. We'll chat a little bit more on the board level, and if, like I said, if anybody's here that wants to talk in regard to the public hearing, we need you to identify yourself, and we'd ask you to go to the podium there. But I'll offer a motion that we open a public hearing as outlined in our agenda, titled GBD, Highway Business and Zoning Changes. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we're underway, so looks like 7:08 or so. Like I said, tonight's not going to be, there'll be no vote on the outcome of the proposed zoning change, but it does incorporate essentially eradicating what we have an antique zone in our code is the Highway Business District, which is out on East Market Street. It's my feeling, and I think probably a consensus, that that's an outdated, outmoded, threatening type of a district, where general business district would be a better concept for it. So we're incorporating what the central zoning is, running out to East Market Street and toward the what used to be the old Red Hook Electric. And then part of it too is there are some isolated pockets by design of the neighborhood mixed use, and we're expanding them to pick up a little bit more on South Broadway, and we feel that's consistent with what the board wants the village to be and look like in the future. The two members here on the board that are on the ZRC are Jay Trapp and Brent Kowalczyk. The third member was Ray Towle, who's on our planning board. They met every Friday for probably 6 or 8 months at 4 o'clock. And that's what's reported out as their recommendations. The board gets to listen and not necessarily has to accept everything, But I don't know if Jay or Brent, did you want to throw anything in?
Yeah, basically what we're doing is, as Ed alluded to, expanding the general business district along East Market Street from Grave Street all the way out to Benner Road, including Baxter Road, past actually Baxter to Blue Echo Road, and all the properties that are from the village line going west and connecting to the general business. So this does include portions of the R10,000 on that, and we have made provisions to keep the existing, or those existing single-family, two-family, and multifamily homes will be able to, as of right, exist in the zone. And we're also expanding the neighborhood mixed-use district along South Broadway.
Hey, Brent, can I interrupt? I did throw it up on the wall while you were talking, just so you know.
So there were a couple properties from Fraley Street going south. And then more specifically, there were 4 properties from Amherst Road going north that were put into NMU, and one to the south of Amherst that was included, and also one off of 5th Street that we included. That's right across from the chocolate factory, which is currently used as a commercial property, but it was zoned residential, so we did include that in the neighborhood mixed use. So basically, this is a result of and a benefit for those properties that are also included in our sewer service area. So they would give them more uses and more commercial uses, and most of those properties are right now are, especially in the NMU, are being used as commercial properties, and the R10,000 again is being severed, I guess, on East Market Street.
Dismembered, did you say?
Just not dismembered, but just so this will be good for the village. There'll be more general business district opportunities and for all around. So it would be good. So that was the plan.
Good. Yeah, and each board member for some time has had the report from the committee. And like I said, what we'll do is, if there's no public comment tonight, we just want to talk about it a little bit. And then later in our regular business section, we'll work on the actual incremental steps we have to take, next steps, which would be, like I said, seeker-related and in that regard. But we don't intend to vote on the zoning change. We can't tonight, so. Jay, do you have any thoughts or input there?
No, I think Brent pretty much hit the
Okay.
high spots. We tried to just make sure that we were sensitive to the existing uses that were being changed from the residential district to the general business, to make sure that not only could they exist as a conforming use, but could exist and modify themselves without falling afoul of the laws that restrict non-conforming uses from various change. So that was I guess, one of our biggest concerns, and you brought that up too. Yeah.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and you'll see later in the resolution that we will do the work on the seeker and getting the next public hearing set. We do have a paragraph there that's putting folks there's some that were in the R10,000 through here that we're actually giving them direct notice of the public hearing, so they know what's going on. And then there's some down here too. But for those in the audience, NMU is our most modern zone. It's our most flexible and probably most unique zone. It gives a lot of uses, a lot of different opportunities to happen there. General business, essentially what Four Corners area, like Brent said, that's already business through a lot of this through here. Anyway, that's the overview. Did anybody want to comment at this point or come back another day? I know I see one face in the audience that's been following us a little bit, fairly closely. But we're moving ahead with it, and we would take comment. If not, we'll close the public hearing tonight and set another one for a month. So we good? I would therefore move that we close the public hearing tonight
You wanna keep it open till next?
No, we thought about it, and we'll just close it, because we worded the other one, it's gonna be brand new, newly noticed with all documentation and everything, so. But that was an option we were considering, but we'll close this one. But it's not going away, it's going to reappear next month. I would offer that as a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. What we can do is move into our department reports. If you can put your GBD packet aside. We start off every meeting with the financial reports. Cindy, would you like me to read it tonight, or? Okay. So it's our newly expanded and formatted treasurer's report. Looks like I do see the vouchers are in front of Charlie there. There's the general fund is the top of our reporting here. It's the current balance is $290,001. You'll see in the general fund a fair amount of expenses this month. One was somehow the employees got it to be a 3 paycheck month, but it was real, by the way. The weeks fell and the pay periods fell, so that drove up some of the expenses. Then we also paid our our periodic fire protection contract payment to Red Oak Fire Company. That's in there. And I think there's some healthcare costs and some of the bigger ticket items in there. But anyway, the fund balance is $290,001. Water fund, the working account balance is $76,557. Trust and agency, $19,589. Petty cash is $71. Village Green, $4,149. Hardscrabble, $4,499. Health insurance, $5,056. And sewer fund is really a version of a capital fund that we work with the EFC on, but it's showing a working balance of $30,260. The reserve checking balances, things that we're now reporting more than we used to. Fire department, these are all at M&T Bank. Fire department, the checking balance there for the special reserve fund we created is $2,013. Police, that's for capital and material events, $14,527. The USDA, that's a short-term asset fund under the water budget, $113,181. So what I would point out to the board, really you take that $113,000 and the $76,000, that's our really operating fund balance or checking account balances in the water realm. Highway, special reserve, again, like police for capital and unforeseen certain contingencies, is $20,705. Snow reserve, $3,277. Tower reserve, $17,699. Switching to expenses, general fund, like I said, it's a little heavy, $221,025. Water fund, $27,397. Trust and agency, $19,589. And sewer expenses are showing, as noted there in brackets, expenses were $27,582. That has to do, we talked about it, it has to be credited back into the EFC side of the equation. It's for change orders to do with the Department of Health and increased engineering costs we had, but it's going to be reimbursed by the EFC. The other thing in the monthly expenses that drove things up, we did in December 1 Main Four Corners General Business District street cleaning. That's when we get more than a foot of snow, we have to open things up. And it actually came in quite high. If you go through the vouchers, we'll have to work on that. I think it's about, we budget for 2 a year, and I hope we don't get another foot of snow because we spent quite a bit on the first one. So it's, we'll have to talk to Highway and see what happened there. Anyway, I guess I'll move that we accept the report. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion, any questions? So if you could, on the left, sign the vouchers, and then we'll move them down. Where are they on? You got to be through them? We do keep the local economy going, because a lot of that, let's call it $250,000 there, goes locally. Next up would be police report. I'll give that. Looks like for the month of December, there were a total of 340 incidents. Breakout is 222 are in the village of Red Hook, 116 in the town of Red Hook, 2 in the village of Tivoli. Tickets issued were 87. Breakout is 55 in the village, includes 2 parking tickets, and 32 in the town of Red Hook. Arrests were 9. Breakout is 6 in the village and 3 in the town. Later on tonight, we have an agenda item. We want to talk a little bit about impact of the January 1 criminal justice reform law, and I have some thoughts and input and steps we're trying to take. But it already is having some ramifications on us here, especially with the evidence and discovery rules that are now in force. We can talk about that when we get to regular business. So we talked about police report. We did have the fire company drop off the fire report. I guess they gave it to Cindy, and it's under here. They didn't run, let's see. Oftentimes they write a nice little cheat sheet total on the top for me. They didn't do it. But on the back, it says a total of 85 incidents. And what I normally do for this is break it out. What's EMS, what's fire, and then what's miscellaneous, and then we further break it out by what's village call versus what's town call, because we have that prorated expense sharing with the town on how we fund the fire company. So we keep data on this, so when it comes up for contract talks with us in the town and the fire company, we have strong numbers. So I'll do that during the week and get some analysis off. Personnel we'll talk about a little later. Insurance, one thing we did do with regard to fire company, we were asking them for an update on the new, we call it the cancer law, where interior firefighters, we have to insure them for cancer protection. We got the numbers and we got them all insured now for the right count of interior firefighters. Anyway, we'll skip to somebody else here. I'll come back. Mr. Trustee Trapp, are you ready to talk about planning and zoning?
Yes, sir. Let me just do a little digging out here.
Okay. Take a look at it.
Just happy to say that our Friday afternoon soirees for zoning revisions has been, it's been difficult. It's more complicated than you can ever imagine when you start to get into it, how all the pieces are threaded through the entire code, and if you're not vigilant, you will overlook something and somebody will be sort of damaged, if you will. So we've been pretty careful in our discussions, and Ray and Brent and I think we're getting along pretty good on this project here. It's moving along.
Don't get along too well, though.
No. Well, we're getting ready to zone out the corner of Garden Street into a whole new zone, so you just hang on.
Yeah, I was wondering, just as a light aside, the GB color is the same color as your vest tonight. Is there any basis?
That's right.
Look at that.
That's right. I represent the general business district tonight, so. No, we're moving along pretty well. We have, for those of us who've looked in this code for a while, there's a lot to do. So we've got our work ahead of us. But I'll get on to the reports here for planning and zoning. 3 building permits were issued, no COs, no certificates of compliance. 4 municipal searches were conducted, no orders to remedy, no stop work orders, no court appearances, and some fire inspections were conducted. I'll chat briefly about those. The report is a little bit farther in here. Planning Board, December 12, minor subdivision, which was across the street. They're still, I guess are they done with that? I'm not sure if it was completed. It was tabled to January 9th, that's it. And ZBA, nothing in December, but scheduled a table to January 23rd, so you guys are up in a little while, so. And I'm pleased to say that the monthly report for December 2019, a whopping $8,090 was taken in, largely on the back of the fire inspections that we mentioned. So is that Clark that does the fire inspections?
Yes, it is. Yes,
Yeah,
it is.
he's a good guy. He knows his stuff pretty well, so I'm just happy about that. And the guys in the building department will have a lot to chew on, because next year, the code revisions, New York State's always 2 years behind. 2017, they adopted 2015. So in 2020, they'll adopt the 2018 codes. So we're still 2 years behind.
And that's the international code, or what is it?
ICC, yes. And for those who have to keep their face in the code from time to time, now the International Building Code, Residential Code are supplemented by a New York State supplement, which may or may not accept everything that's in the code. So you have to look in two places to make sure that you have what you need. But this new code, and we're not sure whether it's going to be printed, whether the municipalities are going to have to pay for it, or whether it's going to be accessible online, but all of it's going to be merged. So the things that New York State does not embrace will be in there as well. So you don't have to look in the code here and then look in the supplement to make sure that you have not overlooked something.
Oh, yeah.
A case in point, in 2015, it said if you want to build a single-family residence, you have to put sprinklers in it. And then you look in the supplement, it says, oh, only if it's 3 stories. So you need to look in everything to make sure that you have everything correct. So I think that's it for me.
Well, thank you. Yeah, just one clarification. When Jay was talking about the complexities of zoning changes, what we're doing steps, the public hearing, and a lot of what we're working on now is the map change and certain things specifically related to that. Then we'll be fine tuning later on the other things. Correct, Jay? Like, in other words,
Yep.
so don't get disheartened. It's going to be step 1 and then other steps later on. Thank you, Jay.
Lester.
It looks like, what do we want to talk about here? We'll let Ms. Norris go to work. You want to?
Barring a potential horrible snowstorm, the Repair Cafe is going to be held this Saturday, January 18th, from 10 to 1 at the Red Hook Community Center. They do this every 3 months, and it's actually quite amazing. I've had a toaster fixed, a lamp fixed, my bike fixed, clothing fixed. It's no charge. So it's a great event this Saturday, January 18th from 10 to 1. And the Red Hook Library is going to hold their annual trivia fundraiser at Cancun's on Sunday, January 25th. It's up to 6 people. For more information, contact the library. And I was just talking to Ed, we need to start thinking hardscrabble, believe it or not. Materials management for the month of December, we had 8.85 tons of garbage and 3.69 tons of recycling, which breaks down as follows. 1.9 tons of commingled, 0.31 tons of cardboard, and 1.48 tons of newspaper. We sold $2,808 in garbage tags. And just a reminder, we're not going to be holding our annual e-waste event, which normally would be held this coming weekend, but it's too cold, so we're going to reschedule it for the warmer months. In the meantime, you can recycle your electronic waste at the Ulster County Resource Recovery, which is free for anyone from any county. And that's all I have.
Good, thank you. Kind of good we did delay it because you said we might be getting snow. I'm hearing 5 to 8 here, then I hear more. Either way, it would have been us in the snow and then trying to unbury the e-waste the next day for shipping it off-site. So anyway, and I cut my teeth before I was mayor on garbage and celebration, so it's still dear to my heart. So I was just trending a few things here. On Jen's report, if you trend out that monthly tag sales, looks like it's moving in about a $34,000 a year range. And I think we budgeted $35,000 in sales. And then we're keeping our 40% recycling rate, if you look at the numbers there too, which is very strong for a small place like us. And I don't know if I forwarded you, but somebody called me today from Toronto. They have a means of helping clean up your recycling, and I asked them to send us some info. I don't know if we'll jump into it, but they said there's apps where people can ask what recycles and what doesn't, and it seemed like it'd be worth looking at, and we'll see. I'm sure there's a cost, which we'd have to see if we can deal with it. But anyway, thank you, Jen. We got our water report, and Mr. Lang down there, you have that handy and ready to go?
I do.
All yours.
All right. The Village of Red Hook Water Treatment Facility's monthly report. So during the month of December, the water treatment facility treated 6,256,100 total gallons, which is an average of 201,800 gallons per day. That's coming off a low in October, where we were down to 180,000, yep. But it's well within the sort of annual variation that we see. We sent off 3 samples for bacteriological analysis, and they all came back absent, so they didn't find any coliform E. coli bacteria, so that's always good news. And during the month of December, the water treatment plant used 65 gallons of sodium hypochlorite. So that comes to an average daily use of 2.1 gallons per day, which again is pretty normal for this time of year, I think. And then, we're working our way through some outstanding issues with metering and
Right.
The ongoing question of
Yeah.
use of the elevated water tank, and
Right. I think last month we announced that we didn't get our next application granted for a WIA grant that dealt with the elevated tank and a few things, but they invited us to reapply.
right.
We did get the formal letter today, which we can talk about, but they're asking if we want to just stay in the state revolving fund and, fund it ourselves, but odds are we'd probably rather not do that, but we could talk about that in a workshop, maybe look at if we break something out, because we were
That
doing a
application
three-prong,
al-
we're doing
That
elevated.
application also included the carbon filter.
Yeah, we had 3
proposal.
prongs, the elevated tank, the carbon filter, and the interconnect, we call it,
Oh, right.
with the town. All right, and I did circulate an 81-page other water sampling thing about 3 weeks ago to everybody. And I talked to our operator. It's an organic compound sample. What we do, we owe annual water reports, which we call AWQRs. And then there's some that are every 3 years, some are every 5 years, some are every 10 years. So they're getting ready for data for one of the more detailed reports. And you will see in the water vouchers, we had to pay for the lab work on that, which is more than just testing for E. coli. So thank you, Charlie.
Okay.
I guess the moment is up for Mr. Deputy Mayor Kowalczyk to go through your list of various things. You ready to go?
I am. I'll start with the Village Green Committee monthly report. Current balances of the Village Green Committee's related budget accounts are as follows. Community beautification, we have $2,672. Shade tree contractual, $1,500 left. In the Village Green Committee checking account, $4,192.92. There was a Village Green Committee held on December 14th in the Village Building, and we basically reviewed and compiled the documentation for the Arbor Day Foundation 2019 Tree City USA application for certification. And that application was submitted to the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation State Forester for review and approval on December 20th. And I believe this will be our 19th year as a Tree City USA. And any residents or businesses interested in having a tree planted on their right-of-way or volunteering for planting days or making a donation to the Village Green Committee can contact David Pearson, myself, or the village clerk. The Highway Department monthly report for December. The village's snow ordinance is currently in effect through March 31st. No parking is permitted on village streets from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. and on New York State highways, which would be Market Street and Broadway, from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. during the same period. When snow or ice removal operations are underway, any vehicle parked or abandoned on any street may be removed by or under the direction of the Red Hook Village Police Department or any responding law enforcement agencies, and the costs associated with vehicle towing and storage will be charged to the vehicle's owners. Also, the owner and/or occupant of every building or lot in the village with an adjoining sidewalk shall remove snow and ice within 24 hours of a snowstorm. And those of us who live on corners with sidewalks, that's a heady task. But at the direction of the Village Board of Trustees, the Village Highway Department may remove snow or ice left uncleared at a cost of $2 per linear foot. The Village Highway Department removes snow, as Ed alluded to, cleared parking spaces and sidewalks in the general business district on December 4th. Local contractors and excavating companies, including Frank Vosberg and Sons, Dave Vosberg, Fast Tracks, J.S. Agnes, Tom Legrand, Jake Stickle, and A. Montanos, assisted the Highway Department. The Village Board of Trustees likes to thank the Highway Department, personnel, and all those who help clear the snow and help make our streets safe and walkable for the holiday season. I believe this happened the day before
Yeah, it should
Friday
be
Night Lights, right?
For Winterfest. Yeah.
Before Winterfest. The Village Board is reviewing projects charged to the General Fund Maintenance of Streets budget line to determine if some of the expenditures qualify for funding through the state fiscal year 2019-20 CHIPS, Pave New York, and Extreme Winter Recovery allocations. The current balances of these state programs are as follows. If we add up the CHIPS, Pave New York, and the Extreme Winter Recovery, we have about $135,154.64. The current adopted village budget allocated only $75,000 for the CHIPS budget line, so we do have a little bit more money than we anticipated, and hopefully we could find those projects that we've already covered, such as some of the catch basin repairs on Market Street to go toward CHIPS. No revenue for the sale of scrap metal was received during the month of December. The total revenue generated for this fiscal year so far is $1,552.75. Since the inception of the scrap metal recycling program in September of 2007, $30,260.22 has been generated. And proceeds from this program go toward the purchase of tools and equipment for the village highway, water, and material management departments. Residences and businesses interested in donating scrap metal may contact the highway department or the village clerk's office, and the highway department personnel will assist property owners by picking up scrap metal upon request. The Red Hook Infrastructure and Intermunicipal Task Force monthly reports for December. Some updates on the Red Hook Sewer Project. Meetings were held on December 6th, 13th, and 20th. The Dutchess County Department of Health offered additional comments on December 5th. Most of the comments acknowledged acceptable responses to previous comments. Items outstanding to be addressed included comments regarding the wastewater treatment plant. CT Mail did respond on December 19th. I also prepared a letter to address the discrepancies to the maximum discharge from the wastewater treatment plant, originally indicated in the seeker neg deck. So we're addressing those discrepancies for the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. And I believe on Thursday we'll be reviewing that. There's been no major change in the neg deck, so we'll just proceed with the explanation on that. So we're still basically waiting for DOH. We did get additional comments. CT Mail will be responding this week. Hopefully this will be the last of the comments. We're really close. The community solar project, as Ed had mentioned, we had a ribbon cutting on Sunday, and I think we all filled up on pancakes, all you can eat. And
Hey, and
That was quite-
Vegetarian breakfast sausage.
and vegetarian breakfast sausage, so it was very good. The Route 9 Old Farm Road water main loop project, comments from the Dutchess County Department of Health are being addressed by the property owners, and this project will connect dead-end water mains to provide more efficient, safe, and easily repaired water distribution services to properties along Old Farm Road and South Broadway. These are in the town. And the costs associated with the project, including engineering services and construction, will be paid by the private property owners benefiting from the village municipal water connections. Costs for permitting and construction oversight by village engineers will be paid by the Village of Red Hook. So we're still waiting on DOH for that one too. The Village of Red Hook Water Distribution System Administrative Services Improvements Project. Meetings were held on December 6th, 13th, and 20th. Delaware Engineering is preparing spreadsheets of all water meter endpoints and records of malfunctions, repairs, and replacements. New work order forms and procedures are being created to show when an order was requested and when it was completed, descriptions of the findings, who made the findings, serial numbers, and endpoint locations of all water meter repairs and replacements. And they're also preparing a fire hydrant inventory and a hydrant flushing and valve exercising schedule. Delaware Engineering is also reviewing billing rates for all customers, including senior discounts and Red Hook Town customers, to check for accuracy of water use and proper billing amounts that are being charged per customer. And Delaware Engineering and VRI, which is our village water operator, are confirming meter readings and reported malfunctions. On the Intermunicipal Task Force, both Charlie Lang and myself represent the village. Meetings were held on December 6th and 13th in the Red Hook Town Hall, and we're reviewing and discussing the proposed amendments to the Town of Red Hook zoning law to permit short-term rentals in certain town zoning districts. A proposed one-time exemption allowing property owners in the Town of Red Hook to offer their property unhosted in all town zoning districts for use as a short-term rental for one time, 1 year, up to 30 days are also being discussed. And some other committee reports that I sit on, Town of Red Hook Zoning Review Committee and the Preservation Fund Community Advisory Board. There were no meetings held of those committees during the month of December. The current balance of the Community Preservation Fund as of December 31st is $1,570,329.19. The Saltkill Watershed Community Monthly Report, a meeting was held on December 11th in the historic Elmendorf Inn, and we discussed a summary of the 2019 water quality testing featuring the Bard Water Lab flow cam, and it was exciting.
Was it?
And yeah, it was interesting to see. And the Northern Dutchess Alliance Executive Committee, the committee met on December 12th, and we reviewed the status of the white paper guide being prepared by James Levy of Planning for Places for Northern Dutchess communities to use when considering regulations for short-term rentals. The Town of Red Hook Local Waterfront Revitalization Program Working Group, we met, actually we didn't meet at all during the month of December, took that off. And the Village of Red Hook Zoning Review Committee, there's been a lot of talk on that already. We met on December 6th, 13th, and 20th. We are looking at not only the general business district, specifically the provisions for in our zoning law, but also the supplemental regulations regarding signs and billboards, definitions, and we reviewed a local law to amend the official zoning map of the Village of Red Hook, and I think we'll be looking at that a little further this evening and in February. And the Red Hook Village Zoning Review Committee recommends revising the zoning map to allow for the expansion of the general business district, which we've already discussed. And that's all the reports that I have.
Thank you, Brent. It's probably a good segue if we look at We now move to the regular business section. We've gotten through department and committee reports. In regular business, we had bullet agenda item number 1, solar project, which we already talked about, so we can cross that off. That was our New Year's good news. The next bullet is GBD, zoning, next step. Which will also includes set the public hearing date. What I thought, if we could revert back and get Mr. Trapp to get ready to do a couple things for us here. In your packets was, or multiple documents in this regard. One is the full environmental assessment form. Another is the local law dealing with the map change. And one is a resolution not numbered yet. If you could gather them, we could start. But I was thinking, Jay, maybe to introduce the work part of what we have to do is, if you have access to the resolution there in your great reading voice, would you want to go through that?
Let's see, which one are we?
It's,
The public hearing one?
no, it's resolution establishing date for public hearing. It has embodied in it some other text too. I just wanted to set the stage.
Here we go. Do we have a number? 1. That's easy.
And it's local law 1-2 further down in there.
Okay.
Being as it's the first meeting in the year, so kind of makes sense when we think about it.
I'm okay. Yep. Resolution establishing a date for public hearing regarding the adoption of proposed local law 1/2020, classifying the action and referring to Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development. Whereas a proposed form of a local law entitled "A Local Law to Amend the Official Zoning Map of the Village of Red Hook and make other associated changes, the proposed local law," that's parenthetic, "has been submitted to the Village Board of Trustees of the Village of Red Hook," parenthetic, the board. And whereas the proposed local law would replace the village's zoning map with a new zoning map to eliminate the highway business district and extend the general business district and neighborhood mixed-use district to make certain associated changes to the zoning law. And whereas the proposed local law is consistent with the village's comprehensive plan, and whereas pursuant to Section 239M of the General Municipal Law, proposed amendments to the zoning law must be referred to the Department of Planning and Development for its review and report thereon. Whereas a full environmental assessment form, parenthetic EAF, dated January 13, 2020, has been prepared on behalf of the board and is on file with the village clerk. And whereas in accordance with the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, parenthetic SECRA, the board is required to determine the classification of the proposed project. And whereas pursuant to 6 NYCRR 617.4, parenthetic B, parenthetic 2, the adoption of changes in the allowable uses within any zoning district affecting 25 or more acres of the district constitutes a Type 1 action under SECRA. Now, therefore be it resolved by the board as follows. Number 1, the mayor is hereby authorized and directed to execute page 13 of the EAF on file with the village clerk. 2, the proposed local law is a Type 1 SECRA action and there are no other involved agencies. Number 3, the board shall hold a public hearing on February 10, 2020 at 7 p.m. at the Village Hall, 7467 South Broadway, Red Hook, New York, to hear all interested parties on said proposed local law. Number 4, the village clerk is hereby authorized and directed to publish notice of said public hearing in the Kingston Daily Freeman on or before January 30th, 2020, which is not less than 10 calendar days prior to the date of said public hearing. Number 5, the village clerk is hereby authorized and directed to send the notice of the public hearing to the owner of each impacted property as indicated on the attached list via first-class mail on or before January 30th, 2020, which is not less than 10 calendar days prior to the date of said public hearing. Number 6, the village clerk is hereby authorized and directed to send a copy of the proposed local law together with a copy of the EAF to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development for a report and recommendation thereon pursuant to Section 239M of the General Municipal Law. Number 7, the village clerk is hereby authorized and directed to send a copy of the public hearing notice to the clerks of adjacent municipalities. There you have it.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
So I just want to get that read into the record. It's in your packets, but we have some work to do. I don't want to put this up for a vote yet. I want to refer you, in your packets is the full EAF Part 1, the 13-page document that is referenced there.
Yes, there's some language
Okay.
missing in the general description.
Okay, we'll work on that, and we're not taking it as a given. And then also is the actual wording of the local law. As you recall, I said we're not going to vote on the local law tonight, but this is the text we're working at with regard to what we're working on, so they all tie into each other. With regard to the local law, there is a requirement that we get this on your desks so many days before a meeting, and so that's met since we're going to be working on it in February, so, but you do have that, presuming nothing changes here tonight. Charlie, you were referencing the EAF. You saw some text.
In the brief description, it's not quite right. It reads that the proposed local law eliminates the highway business district and extends the general business and highway business district. So it's meant to be the
Yeah.
neighborhood mixed-use
Yep.
district
Yeah.
along US Route 9 and South Broadway, correct?
Correct, yeah.
It should be,
It's fine,
it
but-
should be extend general business district along US 199 and neighborhood mixed use district along US Route 9.
Yep.
So where are you inserting it? So we say the proposed local law eliminates the highway business district and extends the GB
Along
Along-
US Route 199.
eastward or something, or east?
Yeah, general
E-
business
east.
district.
So we'll scratch out the second reference to highway business district,
Correct.
and that should say,
And south and NMU,
and the
neighborhood mixed use district.
and the NMU along Route 9.
South,
And mention that one change on.
Fifth Street.
Yeah, there you go.
We also added a property on Fifth Street, NMU.
So yeah, and section of Fisk Street. Then last sentence, existing residential uses in the GBD may continue as non-conforming.
As conforming uses.
So I said, I put a word that's not there, as conforming uses.
Yes.
yeah.
So what I have added that is, the proposed local law eliminates the highway business district and extends the general business district south along Route 9 and neighborhood mixed use district, east along,
East along Route
east along
199.
199, right?
Correct.
And neighborhood mixed use district south along Route 9, including a parcel on Fifth Street.
Mhm. What we can do, folks, is get this to the computer, the right, we'll get it formally entered, but I think we've got the text corrected there, though. But what I want to do is just flip through it. When Jay read the resolution, it had multiple components. Essentially, what we're saying is, in one part of what he read, the proposed local law is a type 1 seeker action, and there are no other involved agencies. I'm not sure, do we want to also write in there, therefore we are lead agency? There's nobody else, so it's kind of excluding any option other than us being lead, but
And it was determined that there were no other interested or involved agencies?
Well, it says, what are you suggesting, Jay? The proposed local law type 1, I think we're agreeing on that. There are no other involved agencies.
Because typically, type 1s mean you're going to have a coordinated review, and if
Yeah.
there's nobody else interested, then we can say that. If they're, you have two categories, interested and involved. Involved means they're actual stakeholders. Interested just means I want to know about it because I'm near it, that sort of thing, so
But they would be governmental or municipal, some authoritative entities, right?
likely so,
But
yes.
I guess what I'm saying is, do we want another sentence saying, therefore the village's lead agency? Or is that enough for everybody?
Okay, the way it's written.
You like it? Is it good? Okay. All right. Then on the EAF, we have, it's a check the box situation. We should probably flip through that together. On page 2, it confirms that we're a government agency entity doing the work. We're not a planning board or a city council. The others are all checked no. We're not within any coastal areas or local waterfront revitalization areas. I'll let you all go through it, but let's, from what we have to do between now and the next public hearing and before we vote, we have to determine if there are any adverse impacts. I think we'll have to work with ourselves, maybe engineer, attorney, just essentially what we're saying is, we're expanding a business district. What are all our implications, ramifications? Because there will be more steps at the next meeting to deal with the seeker. We're not finalizing seeker tonight. We're just saying it's not a type 2 or unlisted. We're saying it's a type 1. Anybody have more input on the EAF? So as I understand it, what we're saying is we'll execute it. If we pass this resolution, then we'll keep working on seeker. We're not done. And then we have other tasks to do. So what I'll do, Jay read the resolution out loud. I'll offer to put it up in the form of a motion for a second. We can have some more discussion. So I would put forward that we adopt resolution number 1 as read and in front of you. I'd ask for a second.
Second.
Any other discussion? I think we've looked at the things we had to look at there, and it's essentially tasking us to do a few more things. I'll call it to a vote then. There are some tasks for the clerk to do, and we'll have to work on the seeker. But I guess a discussion point before we vote to the folks that are on the zoning review committee, how do you envision pulling together? We have to make some sort of a statement to head toward a position on the end game of seeker. Where is it? A neg deck, or where are we going to be? It's will you guys work on that a little bit, or do you need? We could get council or engineering or somebody to help with that. I think.
Get council.
Yeah, a little bit. I guess we look at things like traffic or different things we have to somehow consider or comment on. But
There's this sort of gray area that what we're doing, we're not physically changing anything, but by changing it, we may allow things to happen, which is what we have to kind of consider in this process.
Yeah, and then, but on the positive side of allowing that highway business district is just an antiquated, very dangerous district for the village to continue in.
Yep.
And we're actually strengthening opportunities out in that area for folks. And we are, I want to make a record, we are protecting the R10 folks with what we're doing here too.
There's basically no change
Yeah.
to how they function. and
Yeah.
exist in this
Yeah,
GB.
we did that deliberately, and we'll be notifying them in the body of this, we say that, so it's not just a generic public notice, we're gonna get specific notice. With that being said, and the record being made in that, we have a motion and a second, I'll call to a vote. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed?
We're losing our audience here, oh jeez.
Yeah, he's a farmer, he's gotta go home and get ready for But, all right, so that's carried, and thank you, everybody. Let me just organize my desk here a moment, so. We'll have to decide who's sending out the letter on, I think we're pretty much decided the letter's going out to those people that are addressed there and everything.
Yeah, I sent the list of properties.
Pardon me?
I sent the list of properties to our attorney, and
Yeah, okay.
I think she sent them back actually already.
Yeah, she will.
Must have not been too messed up.
Yeah. Well, let's see. The next item is newsworthy. They're all newsworthy, but if the reporter wants to pay. So, let's see. We have, in December, we received a letter from a woman sitting next to me, Clerk Treasurer Cynthia Sharella, who indicated she's retiring in June 30th, 2020. So she's been here long enough, and even though doesn't look it, she's got enough years in, and
How can you do how can you put 25 years in and be 30 years old? I used to do-
started
28 years.
started young. But it sets up a few steps for her. We'll be doing more. It's fortunately, it's long time enough away that we can work with her in it. But she's been here a big, long time, and she's a big part of the operation. So it's going to be really different. But we congratulate her and thank her for her service. And it's going to go quicker than we think, too, I think. So,
Already been a month.
yeah. So it's one thing, we're going through our details of how we appoint. You might all recall that the clerk position and the treasurer position are actually appointed positions to the mayor with consensus of the board. But in the modern world, I think we're going to go look, we need, especially in the treasurer world, you need somebody that can really do finance. When she leaves, there's a lot of detail here. The clerk, I think, is easier to fill in on personally, but when a treasurer has to come in, there's so much detail. We're a $2.5 million business, essentially. If you add the water, we're almost a $3 million business, and we have full-time and part-time employees and rules and regulations, and a lot of it's centered on the working of our finances. So, but we're also, what I was alluding to there was, we're also guided by village law, but we're just not going to go pick somebody we like and know to replace somebody that's got almost 30 years' experience. We have to, as a board, decide how do we redesign this, what do we do. But to set the stage, what you have in your packets is a resolution. In the old days, probably like in the 1800s, the clerk would be appointed from somebody you knew in the village who you thought could log births and deaths, and things were pretty simple.
It's a lot different than that.
And there's still some old books we've seen that are almost from them, where they wrote in the handwritten records, but now it's modern and computerized. And it's almost, in my opinion, a misnomer that a person's called a clerk. They're more of a business administrator or some sort of admin. But where I'm headed is the law as it sits, the village has to take some certain steps maybe to be able to appoint somebody that does not live in the village. And even though I envision us doing a real job search, there's a secondary constraint. The person does not have to live in the village if we do a certain step, but they have to live in the county of Dutchess. So we can't go get somebody from Ulster County or Columbia County. The law makes the next bandwidth or the next band of eligibility a county person. So I had council look at it, and what we have in front of us is the resulting resolution, which I'll read just so you're all good. Council refers to section 3-300, which that's in village law, provides that elected and appointed village officers must be village residents to be eligible to serve in that capacity. And whereas that section 3-300, subparagraph 2, subparagraph A, provides that the Village Board of Trustees may, by resolution, provide for modification of the residency requirements to all appointed officers to include residency within the county in which the village is located. Now therefore it be resolved that pursuant to Village Law, Section 300, Sub 2, Sub Paragraph A, all other appointed officers in the Village of Red Hook need not reside in said village, but may reside anywhere in the County of Dutchess, State of New York. I see one word I think we can strike. Resolve pursuant to Village Law, all other. I think we could say all, because the reason the word other appears there right now is we had moved in 2013 to exempt the clerk position from this, because at that point Cindy was thinking of moving out of, she did move out of the village. And so we don't really need the word other, in my opinion. What we're trying to say is we can, if and how we replace the clerk and how we replace the treasurer, the guiding limit would be they have to be within the County of Dutchess. So I'm going to say we modify all, we'll take out the word other. All appointed officers need not reside in said village. And so really the only ones we appoint are clerk, treasurer. We appoint a deputy clerk, but that's not as enforced, that's not a big role. And then the village justice has a separate exemption according to council, and we don't appoint him anyway. So I've read it. I'll offer it as resolution number 2. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion?
Just a question, are we able to give preference to village residents over county residents with this, or do we have to look at every applicant equally?
Well, I've not thought of that question. I don't think anybody's tiered with any more points or anything because they're a village. I think we would just, they'd all be judged on their capabilities, not residency.
Okay.
But if somebody was fully qualified, I'd rather keep the money more local. You know, if they compete head to head on skill sets and talent and meet our needs, you know, I'd probably in my head think. And the way it would work is, it is odd that we have to follow the old appointment rules, but we work in consensus generally. You know, it's the mayor gets to appoint, but we get your input and so forth. So, and what we have to do is, you know, in that world of redesigning, we'll have to think of what do we want in these positions as far as coverage and hours and skill sets. But this sets the step 1 for us. So we've read resolution 2. We have a motion and a second. Some discussion. Any other discussion? I'll ask for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Sounds like I heard 5 ayes, so thank you. This one, the next one, criminal justice reform law. There's some direct implications for us, and it goes to staffing, budget, interdepartment relationships. I'll explain what I mean by that. Our PD, we have 3 full-time officers and half a dozen part-time officers, and they all have to be guided by the new New York State criminal justice reform law. And the biggest, I mean, there's the political argument about bail, but that's not really our bailiwick, not to make a pun. It's more the evidence and preparation of defense material, communication of that off to defense counsel is, there's some new timelines and constraints, and our officers have gone to some training offered by the Dutchess County DA's office. But already we've had to get scanners, and there's certain 14-day rules and different things that push discovery and conveyance of evidence into much shorter timeframes. If you read our police report, we don't have that many arrests in any given month, but they do add up, and they have to comply just like the state police have to, or the sheriff's office, or whoever. If you read the papers, whether it be the New York Times or the Kingston Daily Freeman, you'll see there's an outcry against even the evidence side of the new regulations. And the Conference of Mayors took a position, and I've got that brochure here. They've got it in their legislative program for 2020, and essentially they're asking to amend the newly enacted criminal justice reforms. And the bullet points are, A, ensure that cities and villages are provided with additional financial and operational support to offset the costs of these mandated measures. Like I said, I've already picked up on issues within our PD that they need some more time, more help. Exclude from discovery any violations of or information not charging a misdemeanor or crime. Let's see, let me get the words right here. My sticky was over it. Exclude from discovery any violations or information not charging a misdemeanor or crime. Require expedited discovery only when defendants are incarcerated. Make discovery in felony cases not applicable until after indictments. Provide a stay from discovery requirements for 30 days involving cases which may be subject to plea discussions. And allow for withholding of sensitive information such as victim contact information without having to obtain a court order. So if you've been following it, there's a lot of sensitivities on these points, and this is what Conference of Mayors is asking us to reach out to our elected folks about, to try to modify, get these points I read inserted into the law to back off, because we're really not in a position to absorb the costs, which is the first bullet point. And then withholding, they want to be allowed to withhold sensitive information such as victim contact information without having to obtain a court order. Right now it sounds like the burden's on the PD to get a court order to not dismiss or not release sensitive information about a victim. So what I did, I took these bullet points and reached out to Assemblyman Cale's office and asked that they explain their stance to us. But I think we need to work more on this and get more pressure on folks, including Sue Serino. The majority party is the Cahill side of the world, but and I know the governor's talking about it, and I think there's a little bit of ambivalence up there right now, but like I said for 4 times now, it is impacting our police department, believe it or not. And we're small in the scheme of things, but it's the past week or 10 days they've had to do more, and they're feeling some stress. They're good, but this is putting a. So I would just ask that I'll develop a letter and incorporate those points and send it off to our electeds and give them a call or something if you guys are okay with it. So, and there's ups and downs on the whole new law, both on the bail and this side, but we have to protect our fiscal and financial strength. We can't be absorbing all these costs, and certain things make no sense. So we'll do that. Okay with everybody? Budget tax cap. We circulated something. We did get our notice that we're at the whopping 1.78% ability to increase our budget, which for good or bad means about $22,000, which probably would be taken up by historic increases in health insurance and contractual raises. So it's not the greatest position to be in. I'll ask Michelle and Cindy to work on, there's another smidgen of a factor. It's called our levy growth factor. We'll look at that. And sooner or later, I don't know if Cindy gets it yet, but we get our assessment roll from the county. My sense is probably up a little bit. It somewhat collapsed after the recession, the depression of 2007 and 8. But it's come back up a little bit each year, and there's been some construction and different things going on. So hopefully we'll have a little more money than 1.78% to work with. But my guess is going to be 2%. It's going to be something, not a lot. And I think we hit, let me just look at my other packet of non-agenda items. We got something from the court with their cases and payment to us. We're still working on that court audit. And yeah, I mentioned before, we did get a letter. It's actually odd. We're talking about the water before, and we had applied for that newest version of the WIA grant. And they said, I regret to inform you that your community's project was not selected. And Then they ask us, EFC requests that you return the reply form enclosed with this letter to identify whether the village would like to proceed with a drinking water state revolving fund, EWSRF financing, even in the absence of the grant award. So I think out of due diligence, we should ask, but I assume that's just a long-term note with some sort of interest. So we'd rather get that in conjunction with the grants. But, well, I'll put this on hold and we can look at it at the
I don't think we're
workshop.
on the intended use plan.
Pardon me?
I don't think the village is on the intended use plan
For this
for
project,
that
yeah.
project.
No, I think you're right. Yeah, we're on it for
Sewer.
phase 3, right, in phase 3 water, but,
Not on the annual list for the water, but, so
mm,
it's maybe something you would consult with the engineers about.
that's what I thought, yeah. But anyway, but we kind of knew the bad news part of that, they're offering another option, but.
Did we hear anything from DOT regarding our FAST grant?
Oh,
I haven't gotten the mail yet.
well, in December, we read that letter where we thought any day the crew was going to be putting the flashing lights in. We saw a truck a day or two after reading that letter, but they didn't do any work. So I did call them last week when you and I talked about it, but nobody's called me back. What we're talking about is we have existing mid-block crosswalks with normal DOT crosswalk warning signs, and we've got grant money and different things where they're going to put, some have push-button activators and some have just, like I say, we'll have activators of different strength of intensity of light. But we've been promised, and we've seen letters that they're warning us they're going to set up traffic blockages and do work, but they're not here yet, and we're getting anxious. We've been anxious for 18 months, but the last letter we read, I think it was at the last meeting I had it here, and it sounded great.
Before the first of
I
the
think
year?
they said, yeah, December was going to happen. I don't have it with me, but I'll keep the pressure on them. Any other comment from the board? I don't think we need executive session tonight. It was just their placeholder in case we needed it. As is our custom, we open up to public comment. And if you could identify yourself. Somewhere I had our microphone. I put it away. Do you, camera person, can you hear them if they just stand up? Or, okay. We're wired directly into Panda TV, so just speak loud enough. George?
Okay. My question would be the police car.
Oh.
Is that a leased car, or does the village own it?
Well, one of them is leased, one is an owned car. I don't know for a fact. You mean the one that got bullet hit?
Yeah. We don't have currently.
It is back in town. It was taken as, for those that don't know the story here, we had an active shooter event where bullets actually flew about, 5 weeks ago? And in the course of the event, one of our one-year-old police cars acted as a shield, but also being a shield took bullet hits. I have not seen the car. It was towed off in a flatbed that day. It went to DA's office and state police for evidence. It came back the other day. We had it transported to Classic to see, is it a matter of Bondo and some paint, or is something really bad? Because if it's really bad, we have to make an insurance claim. So, but it is back in our possession. And
have to make an insurance claim anyway.
on the event, you mean, or?
You get electronics.
Oh, well, yeah, that part I don't know. And I'm hoping it just went through a fender, but I don't know. We have $1,000 deductible, and it's like, okay, if it's $1,100, we'd probably take care of it. But if it's $10,000, we have no choice, you know. But what I've been told, it was more. Well, I was told it was more cosmetic, but I haven't seen it. Anything else? So, it looks like 8:20-ish. We hit the big things. This is a lucky week. We have a workshop meeting in 2 days. So you'll be all warmed up.
But that's a lucky week.
They got paid they got paid 3 pay periods. Last month we get 2 meetings in a week. Anyway, any other questions?
You look too happy, Charlie.
I'm happy I'm going to be away, actually.
Oh, no. Can we reach you by Skype?
There we go.
You can't vote that way.
which is, anyway, I think we're done. Anybody else have anything from the board? Anybody else out there? Let me just double check, make sure all my bullet points are checked. Ms. Clerk, did we hit everything that was supposed to? Okay. That being said, we need to pay our bills, even though there's a lot of them there, so I'd move that we pay bills after audit. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then, as is our custom, Mr. Kowalczyk, can you review what we did tonight and let us know if we can call it a night?
I think we've accomplished a lot, and I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn this evening's meeting.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everybody.